What is up, everybody? I'm George Mossey. It's the George Mossey Show. We just watched the premiere of The Last Resort Season 2, the first episode, and we're going to jump in and we're going to unpack this in an after show. I haven't watched Between the Sheets. Obviously, it's on right now, but we can't stay up that late and do an after show after. So I'm going to watch Between the Sheets after we're done here and see if it's any good. A lot of people online and on Twitter and X are telling me they won't be watching Between the Sheets. Hey, Gina. Let's see. Kara's joining. How's everybody doing tonight? It's Monday. Happy Monday, the first Monday after the holidays. So I know it's a little rough. I know it's rough for me getting back into the swing of things, but we're here. Holding on to hope that we're going to be able to get through this week. It's going to be the first full week. Dee Dee is here. Oh, I'm sorry. Kara's here. I think I tweeted out that this was a very slow moving show. Like compared to 90 Day Fiance the other way and before the 90 days, it was really slow moving. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Howdy. How are you?
Apparently I'm struggling.
I mean, it's Monday after the holiday, so things are a bit rough, right? Yeah. I've had a rough day. Yeah. Getting back into the swing of things. It hasn't been very easy.
Me too.
But we're going to get into this. So the first episode of The Last Resort, all the couples were there. Gino and Jasmine, Natalie and Josh, Florian and Stacy, Ari and Biniam, Rob and Sophie. Am I forgetting anybody? Oh, Brandon and Julia. And Julia were there. So first impression, like it was slow moving. I remember looking at the clock and we were in the show for about an hour and nothing really happened. So, because I don't remember I don't remember the show being 2 hours last year. Was it? It wasn't 2 hours, right?
I don't think it was. I think it was only an hour last year.
Yeah, I think that's sufficient, right? I feel like this was a lot. And now the Between the Sheets is on now. Obviously, we can't stay up that late and then go live after. So, I'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So I'll watch that later. But I'm not even sure if it's a 3-hour commitment for this show on Monday nights, and I think that's a lot to ask out of people for people that were like on the fence about already. Like, so there was a scene where the therapist asked everybody why they thought they were there. So I want to get your reactions to that, because a lot of people online were like, they were making the shit up, right? Literally. So everybody was making stuff up. So how do you feel? I know that Julia said she doesn't want to have kids. Hi, Sinsen. Julia says she does want to have kids, and Brandon said he does. Do you believe that? Do you think that's a real...
No, I think it's all bullshit to get on the show.
Well,
just like Stacy was literally trying to remember what she was supposed to say. Like,
well, I noticed that she started stumbling because they were like, "Why are you here?" She's like, "Oh, well, he cheats on me, or he flirts with people, and oh, there was like makeup on his shirt." And I was like, I feel like everybody's making stuff up. Yep. And I mean, I know for a fact, well, you both and I know who's together, who's not, where things are going, how things turned out. I thought it was interesting though, because Rob and Josh are really close. So that little storyline where Rob was supposedly messaging, Josh was messaging Rob's wife at the time behind his back. I thought that was a little messy. Because, not only are they close, they work together. They're literally in Australia together right now. So I thought that was a little messy.
They're trying to make it messy because there's nothing. There's literally, these people aren't even together. So they're putting exes, I mean, not all the people, obviously Stacy and Florian. Stacy and Florian had to get on a show so that they could get Darcy back on TV. So that's a given. But
it's interesting that Darcy and Georgie weren't the first choice. I feel like their issues are much more evident than Stacy and Florian, because Stacy and Florian kind of had to prove to everybody that they had issues.
Yeah,
because nobody...
With Darcy, I was thinking about that. And with Darcy, they never filmed her and Georgie getting married. We only know they got married because of
the magazine.
Media and all that.
Yeah.
Stacey and Florian going on the show is gonna bring Darcy in, and then Darcy will announce she's married to Georgie. And you watch, they'll either join the episode or they'll be on the next shit show.
Well, I heard that Darcy specifically is going to be at the resort. I don't know why or to what extent they're going to use her. Obviously, she'll be there probably to support her sister in whatever she's saying about Florian. I don't know. I like Florian. I've always liked Florian. I don't see Florian as like a go out and cheat on your wife guy. I feel like he's very socially awkward. So I feel like his game is very minimal. Like the fact that he was able to get Stacey is kind of impressive, right? Because I feel like Florian is not really the type of person that would go out into a bar and just talk to random girls. I don't see him as that person. So when they're trying to sell to us that he's a cheater, it's just not believable to me. I mean, I feel like living in Miami, you know, it's hard to stay at home and watch TV every night because it's like a club city. You don't really get married and then move to Miami. You get married and move to Connecticut. Like they did the opposite. So she married a younger guy and moved them to a party city, and she wants him to sit at home at night with her while everybody's out partying. So I can understand where there's going to be a clash in that. And Julia said it. I don't think she meant it as mean as it sounded, but she was like, well, this is what happens when old women want to date young men. And it's true. And it goes vice versa too. When older men want to date a younger woman, there's a disconnect between, because you know, an older person wants to be in bed at 10 o'clock versus a younger person wants to be in somebody's club with a drink in their hand at 10 o'clock. So there's a huge disconnect, but I still don't think that Florian is out just banging around Miami. Well, I don't believe that.
They're 17 years apart and he's a model. So people are applying makeup to him all the time. So if he had makeup on his clothes, it was probably from a side gig he picked up. I'm telling you, there's literally, when it comes out who he cheated with or how he cheated, it's going to be a text conversation that he had with somebody. He didn't physically cheat on her. They had to find a reason to get her on the show so they could bring Darcy on, so that Darcy can announce she's married, so that Darcy can, it's Darcy. So that's exactly what's going to happen. Stacey couldn't even keep her whole storyline straight. So
because Stacey's not used to doing this, right? Like Darcy's usually the ringleader, how they get on the shows. And I do remember way back in the day, like the second season of Darcy and Stacey, there was an ex of Florian's that reemerged that kept trying to say that Florian was at her house and she had pictures of Florian in her bed. Remember way back in the day?
And that's probably what we're going to talk about this season.
Oh, so you think it's the same exact thing. And then we found out that those pictures were actually from before he married Stacey, so it wasn't even, it wasn't important. You know, he shouldn't have been doing it, but they weren't married, so it wasn't really important. And you know, Stacey and Florian broke up all the time, just like Darcy and Georgie. They would just wake up one day and kick their asses out of the house. You know, so obviously they're out talking to other people. You kick them out. What do you want them to do? Hey, Shelly.
Just like at the end when she's sitting on the edge of the bed, tries to muster up a fake cry. All you can see is the duck lips go out, but not a single tear is shed. Like, not a single tear. So she is so trying to stage this, but it's just not flowing.
No. And she made a comment that I think is a enemy of therapy when she was like, Florian, you have a lot to work on. When you go into therapy, couples therapy, and you think the other person is 100% the problem, you're never going to get anything out of therapy. Because when you go to couples therapy, that's about taking accountability for your actions. You should actually go in thinking about what you need to fix rather than going in thinking about what they need to fix. And I think that shows that even if they had problems, she wouldn't be able to work through it in therapy because she thinks that everything is his fault. It's kind of like Sophie. Sophie thinks everything is Rob's fault, but in the end, you moving out right after y'all got married didn't help the relationship. It didn't help the marriage. You didn't grow and get stronger as a couple because a month after you got married, you moved out, and he didn't even know which apartment to find you in. You didn't even tell him. You've been gone for so long, you didn't even tell him where you were. So, and it's like watching them is actually hilarious because we already know that he hooked up with people at the Mexico Last Resort single house.
Yeah.
So it's like watching them pretend that they're working on this relationship is kind of comical.
Yeah.
Because, and then it's funny too because we're watching people arrive separately, like Natalie and Josh arrive separately because they're not together. Biniam and Ariella arrive separately because they're not together. So it's like they're not even pretending. Like they could have at least made them ride in the same car to give us false hope that this was real. They didn't even try.
With Gino and Jasmine.
Right. They made them ride together, and you know damn well Jasmine is not living anywhere near that man, and he's not living with her. Well, we did find out that they stopped having sex a month after they got married.
Yeah.
So they were married 9 months, and then they said in therapy they stopped having sex 8 months ago. So what the hell, right? And well, he said,
listen to her. Listen to her talk when she's talking to other couples. Listen to her when she's talking to Gino. If you've never heard her speak, she's a beautiful woman. But as soon as she opens her mouth, all of her personality comes out. And she's a nasty human being.
She's a very what's the word? Absorbed. Yes. Yeah. Like I thought the perfect definition of their relationship in marriage was when he was trying to walk into the room and she just shut the door in his face. I was like, this is the perfect portrayal of how being in a relationship with her is. She lets herself in and just closes the door in your face. She sees no one but herself, and she's never going to see Gino as a human being. It's just Gino needs to do this for me. Gino needs to make me happy. Gino needs to give me money. Gino needs to do this. It's never a give and take. It's always a take. And I think that's the issue. Gino is basically fed up with her attitude. And it's like, I think hopefully he'll be able to get that across in therapy, because he's been trying to tell us 2 different tell-alls. He was like, I don't hate my wife. I just hate her attitude. And I think her attitude, like you said, is what makes her ugly. Yep. She's ugly on the inside, beautiful on the outside. And a lot of people, you know what? I wanted to say this the other day. Why is it that when men are being abused verbally, that people tell them, oh, suck it up, you're a man? But if a woman was being abused verbally, we would try to help her, get her resources, get her in a better situation. Why do we have this weird stigma where they're like, so what, Gino? She calls you less of a man and she says you can't get it up. Just suck it up and bang her. You're a man. You're supposed to. Why are we telling men that we're just supposed to deal with abuse? But we would never say that to a woman, because it's very interesting. Because at all the tell-alls, I remember all the guys were like, just have sex with your wife, Gino. It doesn't matter if she's mean, you just have sex with your wife. I was like, that's not good advice. Because
it's disgusting.
It actually is. It's really sad that we just tell men, let people abuse you because you're a man, and it's okay. And it's like, we would never tell a woman like, oh, he's abusive. Well, you know what? You're a woman. Suck it up. You know, you should be in that relationship. We would never do that. So I'm sick of hearing everybody come after Gino. Just be like, well, just be a man about it. You should have sex with her just because she's your wife. No, because a woman has the right to say she's not in the mood, right? She doesn't have to have sex with her husband just because he's her husband. So I feel like we definitely have to tackle these double standards that we put out there in relationships. And until we do, we're never going to see real relationship resolution, because we have different expectations for different genders. And I think that's the biggest issue.
I think so too. I couldn't agree more.
It's
one thing about
crazy.
So with Jasmine being Jasmine, she has this shitload of problems. And I realize we have the Between the Sheets episode to watch where they watch themselves back. But the one thing about Jasmine is you go on her social media and she's like, just be kind. Let's put peace and kindness in the world. Everyone should love everybody. Blah, 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 blah. She's the judgiest person. She literally was judging. She judged Brandon, said he looks so boring. And she said he has the personality of a fart. Yeah. Like she put Josh down. Like every time they focused on her, she was putting another person down. If somebody said that about her, she said, Josh is such a player. All he does is look at your boobs. I'm sorry, put her in front of me. I'm going to stare at her boobs too. Well, because
when you walk around with they're out.
Yeah.
You know, like they're out. Like I don't want to. And I'm not saying that it's ever okay for any woman to feel objectified, but when you walk around like with them completely out all the time, people are gonna look.
When you
Especially men.
make yourself, when you go as big a breasts as you can, and you wear a tenth of the clothing you should be, you better not be surprised that people are staring. Only you have the power to fix that. I'm not saying that it's okay to. I know I'm going to get attacked for that, so
Well,
don't come at me. What I'm
right. We're
saying,
not saying it's okay to ever objectify
no.
anyone,
But
and
what
it's
I'm saying
never
is,
like
if you're going to put yourself out there like this and and get mad when people look at you, that's on you. Cover your shit up.
yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I remember I was reading this news story where it was a school that made girls cover everything up because they said that they were being a
Yep.
distraction to boys. And I was
Yep.
like, well, boys have to also learn to control themselves too. You know, but
Yep.
at the same time, like for Jasmine, I remember there was when she was wearing the American flag bikini. Remember they went out on the
Yep.
boat and it only covered the nipple. It didn't cover anything,
Yeah.
basically. And it's like you can't be surprised that people are objectifying your body when you're wearing everything on your body is a string, right?
Yep.
You're not
You're
covering any
literally
part
putting
of
it
your
out
body.
there.
And it's like, yeah, you want to be respected, but sometimes, I hope this doesn't come out wrong, you have to dress for the respect you want to receive.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you walk around
totally.
naked, you're not going to get the level of respect that someone who covers up gets. Right? Like she literally, everything's always hanging out.
Yep.
So if you walk up to anyone, I mean, men and women, you walk up to anyone, it's going to be hard to focus on anything but what's right on display.
Yep.
Right? It's on display. It's like going to a museum and they're like, don't look at anything on the walls. That's what's on display. That's the first thing my eyes are going to go to. So yeah, I definitely think you want to be respected and you want to not be objectified. You have to take steps to make that happen. And again, objectification of people is wrong, but this is a world where we can't control other people's minds. We can only control what we display to other people.
Yep.
And that's all we can do.
And if all the other women that are there look like Jasmine, dress like Jasmine, all that stuff, and Gino even turned his head to speak to somebody, she would come out of her skin. So.
Whoa. Apparently the Julia and Natalie thing, there's issues from the tell-all. And remember, I thought that it was Natalie who threw the glass at Jasmine. She hit Julia's glass. The drink flew in Jasmine's face. So I had it all wrong. So the fight was actually between Natalie and Julia, which makes more sense. They were fighting a lot at their tell-all. But Jasmine got caught in the crossfire, and that's when she got in Natalie's face and was like, I'm going to knock you out. And that's when things got crazy. And it's funny because we were just talking about this on Shabuti's podcast. And I was like, do you think anybody would actually get physical on the shows? And Jasmine's name came up while we were talking about it. They were like, I think Jasmine would. I think Angela would. I think Scott would. They were like, I think these people would actually get physical. Because we were talking about that.
Because Jasmine's not going to get physical, like punch you in the face or kick you or anything like that. She's either going to be a spitter or a drink thrower, or she's just going to scream so loud because that's all she does. So when she screams, we all plug our ears and run. Well, not because we're afraid of her, but because it's horrific.
That was my thought too, because I was like, a lot of people are bark no bite. Because people were like, oh, Angela would fight because I saw her on Maury and she acted like she was going to fight. I was like, I feel like Angela's the type of person who will get crazy and scream because there's security right there and nobody can get to her. And she knows, like, if you were in the park, like, you know, the one girl, she's like, meet me in the parking lot. I feel like if y'all were in the parking lot and security and cameras weren't around, they wouldn't be as aggressive.
Absolutely.
But since the cameras and security and production and all these people to protect them, you feel like empowered. You know, you feel like empowered. You're like, well, I can say anything that I want to say to these people because they literally can't do anything to me. Because if they did, you know, they would get banned from the show and they wouldn't get there. Like, you have all these protections. I do think that Jasmine, if there wasn't cameras and people to hold her back, she probably wouldn't try to punch Natalie in the face. I don't think that she would, because I don't see Jasmine as a fighter. You know, when you have a pretty face, the last thing you want to do is get in a fist fight. You know, I
She's
don't see
not
her as
going
a
to
fighter.
break a nail. She doesn't want to break a nail. She doesn't want to lose any more hair. She doesn't want to get her lips popped. She doesn't want to get her boobs popped. She doesn't want any of that. So all it's going to take is a swing and a miss, and she's going to get her ass beat.
Yeah. And there's not, she's pretty light too. A swift wind could take her out,
Yep.
right? Like she's pretty light. There's not a lot to keep her grounded. Oh, I want to talk about this handshake between Benny and Ari. So he hugs everybody there and tries to give Ari a handshake, which I'm not gonna lie, that was like the most shade I've seen thrown at somebody in a long time. You know,
Yep.
like he hugged Stacy, he hugged Josh, he hugged Florian, and then
But
he gets
those are nice people that he's meeting, not someone that took his child and ran to his home country
Ethiopia
and said, screw you, and then you hook up with someone else and now you're a cheater, even though that person doesn't even live in the same country. I have
Wait, so you know who
zero.
this girl is?
No, I'm saying Ari lives in a different country. Ari
Oh yeah.
moved. She moved to his home country, brings him to the U.S. and moves to Ethiopia with his child, knowing that that's what happened with his first kid. His first kid, the mom moved out of the country and he didn't get to see her.
And
So
you know, now that he's here, he's having the hardest time getting rights to see that child. Even now, she's made it so difficult. Oh, and I always considered Ari to be a Karen. So we found out tonight that when she found out he was cheating, she changed all the passwords to his social media, and she's holding the passwords hostage until he admits on national TV that he cheated on her. So, and I don't
despise this woman. I despise her. I didn't like her before, but just within the first 10 minutes of this show, I'm like, she is absolutely the bitch I remember. She's a terrible person. Also, his social media is verified. I would be contacting Meta, and with my proof, I would set up a new email that she has no connection to, and I would submit my ID, and I would tell them, here's what happened. This got hacked. I need to, and then go from there. Reset your passwords, all that shit. I wouldn't give it up. He's got 360 some thousand followers, like, and he uses it for work. She's terrible. She's a terrible human.
The funny part, I knew that she was controlling his social media because like a year ago, I said something, I don't remember what I said, and Biniam's account blocked me on Instagram. And I was talking to Ari, and I was like, oh, yeah, your husband blocked me or whatever. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And within like an hour, his account unblocked me. And I was like, that's weird. I was like, so did she tell him to unblock? She's controlling his accounts.
Yeah.
And I think what's insane to me is she doesn't see what's wrong with that. She doesn't see that controlling an asset of someone else's to get them to do what you want is not how you resolve a situation. And I think she's basically just being a Karen. And it's crazy to me because she was like, I don't want to talk to you until you admit, well, basically, I don't want to give you your passwords until you admit that you cheated on me on national TV, which we've all seen the TikTok live. We saw that he kissed this girl. We've all seen it. It's been around. And they showed it on the show tonight if you didn't see it. We actually saw it when it happened. Yeah. Right? And this was this year, so they weren't together. I mean, it's weird because when you're married, but you cannot be together and be married. Yeah. So they were definitely not together. They weren't living in the same place. Nothing. So he was with this girl on TikTok. I don't know the origin story. Like, I don't know if it was a girlfriend, a friend, if he worked with her because he's a model. He does dance. And I think she was a dancer. It could have been somebody he met through work. I don't know the story. But if she's in another country and they're separated, he can do whatever he wants. Yeah. Right? Like, I get that you're still married, and I get that your marriage vows don't expire, you know, if you're separated. But if you abandon your husband and leave the country, is he supposed to just sit there and wait for you to come back and not do anything?
That it just, she's, like I said, I couldn't stand her before, but after tonight, there's no way I could even try to respect this woman a little bit. Everything she's doing is wrong. He sat down. What did she say? You look like shit. If he said that to her, that would be a whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
She straightforward said, you look like shit.
But then got mad when he called her a liar.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you shouldn't be talking to me that way. And I'm like,
yep.
You can't tell people. It's the practice what you
yep.
preach. If you want people to respect you and treat you a certain way, you have to treat people and respect people that way. You're right, Shelly. It's a sense of entitlement. She has that sense of entitlement where she can call you names, she can scream at you, steal from you, treat you like garbage. But you have to respect her no matter what because she's Ari.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that it's crazy. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I've never liked her.
Mm-hmm.
She's never been like a cast member that even grew on me. I didn't like her from the beginning. The fact that I found out that she was a grown woman with kids and she was having both of her parents who were in their well into their 70s still working, taking care of her while she sits around and don't do nothing and travel, it irked me. I was like, that just irks me because I was like, if I'm able-bodied and able to take care of myself and my parents are well into their 70s, pushing 80, and they're still working so they can take care of me and my kid and my husband that she brought over here, she's never worked as far as I know since he's gotten here. She's never has. And her parents have worked so hard because, her dad's a doctor, her mom's a nurse or a practitioner or something like that, and they run this doctor's office. And she even moved her mom to Vegas to get an apartment for her and Benny. I don't know if you knew about this a year or two ago, because neither one of them were working. I mean, Benny's working now, but back then neither one of them were working. So she had the mom move all the way to Vegas and be a nurse in Vegas so they could have a place to stay. And that irked me. It just bothers me. It's like when your mom is at that age, you should be taking care of her.
Absolutely.
Don't uproot her life. She had to leave her husband all the way back in New Jersey to move to Vegas because you wanted to live in Vegas, but you didn't want to pay for it. So she had to come out here and work to take care of you. Like, it just irked me. The whole situation irked me.
Yeah. She said, one comment that she made tonight, she said, I'm a happy person and I've never seen this girl even smile. I've never seen her be a happy person. She's disgusting. She's just disgusting. I don't have any other words for her. She's a terrible wife. She's a terrible human. She's a user. She's a thief. As far as I'm concerned, she's a thief. She has stolen his identity by stealing his social media. She has stolen, he literally said, I use that for work. So she has stolen the way he promotes himself. Yep. And she's holding all this shit hostage along with his child in another country. And you want him to come out? You're lucky he offered to shake your hand.
I think the best way to describe her is vindictive. I've always seen her as a vindictive person. She's always looking for a way to get over on someone.
Yep.
She's just evil. She's always thinking of it. You know when you watch a show and there's a person and they have the villain and they're working on their evil plan? She's like the evil, vindictive person working on something to get over on people. Yep. But she always wants to be the victim, no matter when. It's like, well, if you're always being vindictive and evil towards other people, you're not really the victim because you caused a lot of these issues. Like, because he was like, well, I'm only here to get my social media. And that really pissed her off because she thought she lured him there in order to fix their marriage. I think Benny sees her for who she is, and he has no interest in fixing anything with her. Absolutely. I think he is way past that point. He was like, well, if this is the way I can connect with her, tell everybody what she did to me, she might be forced to give me back my social media, right? Like if I say it on TV, if I go about it this way, she might be forced to do it. Maybe the doctors will make her do it, whatever. So I think he showed up because he was like, I'm not here to fix anything with you. You're a horrible person, right? Yeah. Like, I know that you're a horrible person. I can see that you're a horrible person, but now I'm just here to collect my things. Yep. And I think that was it.
The only episode I've ever enjoyed with her on it was when the sister threw wine in her face.
Oh,
that brought me so much.
They just reposted that recently.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, they should over and over and over. I'd like to throw wine in her face.
They reposted that. I don't remember what she said to the sister, but it was something really nasty.
Yeah, I don't
remember something along the lines of, I don't care what y'all think because he's leaving here and you'll never see him again. I don't remember what she said, but she said something really, really nasty to the sister, and she unloaded a whole cup of wine in her face.
Yeah.
And it was very refreshing. Again, we don't condone violence, but it was already taped. We couldn't do anything about it.
I mean, I do. We know that.
It was refreshing to see, because sometimes it's nice to see people push down a few notches, right?
Absolutely.
When they're nasty and disrespectful and hurtful and evil and vindictive. Sometimes it's nice to just see people put back in their place and say, hey, you're an evil human being, and this is what happened. Evil human beings get an entire cup of wine in their face. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know. I think it's going to be awesome to watch this whole thing play out, the whole show play out. However, I hope it gets much more entertaining and less scripted or planned, because we all know there's this and that of every show. But so far, this show is so you can predict almost everything that's going to happen just in episode 1. But going in, we already knew 90% of these people aren't together in real life. So we know this is all just that. But the reasons that they're pulling shit up, like Jasmine and Gino, we've already hashed all this shit out in the last one.
Yeah.
We already know. We already know they don't have sex. We already know they're miserable. We already know all that. Why are we going over this shit again? Aren't we done with these freaks?
Yeah, it was very insistent on itself. They told us their story like we haven't watched every season of these people.
Yeah.
Nobody on this show has been on just one season of anything.
Yep.
So we've been watching these people for a long time. So we didn't really need to hear, Jasmine and Gino's situation. We knew it. We were there. We were watching it. And I don't know why they do it. They do it at the tell-alls too. They recap like we weren't watching the season. I was like, maybe that's for Sean, because we know Sean ain't watching it. So maybe those recaps.
Like the math ain't mathin'. It was 8 months since they had sex on the last show.
Well, I guess they filmed this right off the tell-all. So like when they left New York,
like
they filmed right after the tell-all.
A year apart, you gotta at least math the math.
Well, people are also saying that Jasmine's been 37 for 2 years.
She's been 37 for a very long time.
Yes. So I think you're right. I think the math is wrong. And I think when they tell them to talk, they're setting up a false timeline sometimes, because their birthdays and everything, it's not matching up, because she couldn't have been 37 at the last tell-all and 37 at this show.
Yep.
Because there was a year and 2 months in between.
Yep.
So I think that they're telling them what dates to say so everything aligns with the next show, with the next step in the process, because we'll probably see Jasmine and Gino on the Single Life. So it has to align when that show ends. It has to align with whatever timeline the Single Life is on. And then maybe that'll be the last we see of them. And Rob and Sophie maybe will be on the Single Life. I haven't figured that out, because apparently I heard that they weren't together, and then somebody told me recently that they saw them together. So I don't know if they were just getting paid to be together. Because, some people can stomach each other long enough to get a check. So I don't know what Rob and Sophie were doing together, but they were seen together, which I was a little shocked about. But, you get paid to make an appearance with somebody. I can stand next to somebody for an hour to get paid. Right? I was taught.
Seeing Julia tonight reminded me why I can't stand Magda.
Wait, she reminds you of Julia, right? Isn't that what we said?
So much. So much.
I think so, yeah. I think so too.
Also,
I think
someone needs to teach Julia how to put her self-tanner on, because her toes are nasty.
Well, there was so many tweets about the toes. Did you see the dark dirt along the sides? I've never seen toes that bad before. It's
self-tanner. She put the tanning lotion on, but didn't blend it in her toes.
Oh, so it's not that her feet are dirty. It's self-tanner. See, I didn't realize that.
They're probably dirty also, but you can totally tell. Like, if you've ever put self-tanning lotion on someone else and didn't wash your hands right away, the next day you've got I used to put it on my best friend all the time. I put it on her back for her, and the next day, if I didn't wash it all the way, it'd be in the creases of my fingers and stuff. and it looked like I hadn't washed my hands in 6 months. So it's self
Oh,
tanner, but her feet are gross.
well, yeah. The tweets were saying that her feet were strange. Well, I don't know. I've never used self tanner. I've been tanned,
I really
so
need to get on
I've
some.
never used it. So I don't know how it works. But I was wondering, the pictures that I saw online. It was rough. The feet
Yeah,
pictures were rough. We seen Jasmine recently. We saw a picture of Jasmine's feet, and it looked like one of her toes were missing. Did you see that
yeah,
photo?
yep,
So I don't know if it was like a bad, sometimes if you take a video and then you screenshot the video, you get like distorted images. I
yeah.
don't think Jasmine's missing a toe, but I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I don't know. Like, I don't know these people well enough to know, but yeah, that was scary. The also, they were in the tub together, and then they were like, "We haven't had sex in 5 months."
Yep,
And I was like, people who take baths together have sex.
yep,
I'm sorry. I don't mean
yep,
to get like weird, but like y'all do. If you're in the bathtub together, y'all are doing stuff. Trust me. Trust me. You know who's not taking baths together? Gino and Jasmine. Trust me,
yep.
they're not doing that.
And Ari
People, yeah. So, I mean, this episode for me, it was very, very slow moving. Oh, one more thing before we end. No doctors on staff, two counselors, and a sex therapist. How do you feel about that? Because remember last year we had a psychiatrist.
Yep.
So how do you feel about that?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I saw a little. I don't know if it was TikTok or IG or what, but I saw a little video of the man and the woman, not the ones, not the sex therapist woman, but
The
the other one.
two counselors. Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw a video of them talking about it, going, "Oh my God, can you believe it? We're on TV. We've had to keep this so secret for so long." They don't even seem like legit counselors, to be honest. But then
Really?
you put these you put these weirdos on TV as your counselors. Like, just watching the guy talk, he was so over the top and performing that I couldn't take him seriously. But then it just it yeah, you can't, you have no psychiatrist in there. Like, this is not, these aren't, this, none of this is real.
Well, that was my thoughts. I was like, well, there's no doctor. That means it's not real. Because if
Yeah.
you want to get to the bottom of certain situations, you need either a psychiatrist or a psychologist, right? You need
Yes.
one of the doctors to help you analyze. Because counselors, don't get me wrong, they're certified, they go to school, but they don't always have they can't diagnose you with something.
Right.
Right. And sometimes to get to the bottom of an issue, you need a diagnosis so you know the proper treatment to overcome that. So when I saw that there were no doctors on staff, I was like, oh, this is an entertainment thing. None of this is real. This is
Absolutely.
just to entertain us. Because last year they had a doctor. She was a
Yeah.
legit psychiatrist. She has a degree. She majored in it. That meant that it was a little more serious. That person can help identify your issues and give you a treatment plan. A counselor can't really do that. A counselor just has an open dialogue,
Yeah.
and they make
Yeah.
suggestions.
Yep.
Right? They can't tell you how to treat it, if there's a medication. They can't do any of that. So this is an entertainment purposes only thing. So that's
Yes.
how you know that these relationships were not real to begin with, or they didn't have any problems to fix. Because who's
Yeah.
gonna fix them?
Yeah, exactly. You could basically see everything happening as it happened, that these people are so far apart, or they're still so close. Stacy and Florian, they're good. Brandon and Julia, they're good. Everybody else is not even a couple. So why are you guys here?
They could, yeah, they couldn't stomach each other, and it's funny
The
watching
only
Josh try to
couple, the only actual couple on the show is Rob and Josh.
stop. They are very, very close, though. They're like
Yeah.
father and son. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, Rob and Josh, I ain't never seen two cast members as close as them. It's like
Literally.
Patrick and Boston John. Like, that's how close Rob and Josh
Yeah.
are. So it's funny that they're trying to cause commotion and say that Josh was texting Rob's wife. It's kind of funny because it's like, it's BS because they're literally together right now in Australia working. So it's like, because if somebody was texting my wife, we're not going to be hanging out. We're just not.
And you also put Josh and Natalie on the same show in the actual city that Josh lives in, and she's still never seen his house. So
yeah, that was
clearly
messy.
they're not together.
Whoa. They've never been together, and I've been trying to say this for a while, and I don't know what's real and what's not about what's at Josh's house, but I can almost guarantee you that a woman lives there. There's no reason why he can claim they were together for 3 years, or she can claim they were together for 3 years. She's never seen the inside of his house. The only logical explanation for me is he lives with his wife or a girlfriend. There's no other logical explanation for me.
And she's batshit crazy. I wouldn't want her to know where I live.
Well, I mean, yeah, when she was
where I live, that's fine.
When she was asking what direction, I was like, so she's just gonna show up at his house. That's the mindset that I think she's always in.
Yeah.
Because she was like, well, how do I get there? And I feel like if she was smart enough to use Google Finder, because you can find anybody's address online anyway.
Yep.
She's not that smart. If she was smart enough, I feel like she would just show up. She would pull a Brian and just show up at the house and demand to meet the family. I feel like that's exactly what she would do, because that's how batshit she is. Even though she wasn't invited, she's that person where you invite someone and then she overhears it and then she comes with them. She's that person. So
I agree.
You can't tell me in 3 years there was never an opportunity for her to come over to your house.
Yep.
So that means that they live on 2 different states. How are you in a relationship and you live in 2 different states? Yep. And it's not real. And he's never once wanted to bring you to his house, ever. I'm over it. I'm over Natalie in general. I don't want to see her ever again after this.
Me too.
I really want her gone from the show.
Yep.
She's just too much. And then the way she was calling Julia fat, I ain't like that. I don't like when women are putting.
Man, that pissed me off. And I can't
like
stand Julia, but that was so uncalled for.
Julia's not a favorite of mine, but Julia's a lot of things, but Julia's not fat. I don't like when women have like a intimidation or issue with another woman and then they start body shaming them.
Yep.
I don't like that at all. I feel like women go through enough body image issues just in general, being alive, through magazines, TVs, advertisements, go into a store and they don't carry all the sizes.
Also, Julia's there because she's decided she doesn't want to have kids, right? So the first thing Natalie says is, "Are you pregnant?" So, yeah.
Messy. It's messy. I mean, I like the messy stuff. I do, but I think some stuff is below the belt. I learned the hard way before when I was many years ago not to ever ask a woman if she's pregnant. Don't. If she's pregnant and she can tell you, don't ever ask, don't ever assume. That's literally the worst possible assumption you can make about a woman. Don't do that. Because if she's not, she's going to be pissed. So don't even do it. Wait, Gina says, can you imagine George, Mossey, and Kara and I being the paid counselors? See, I would ask the right questions, but I'm not a doctor though. But I would ask the right questions. I would get to the bottom of everything, and nobody could tell me.
Day one.
Well, nobody can lie to me. I'd be like, Stacey, for real, tell me really why you're here. How much money do you need? Right?
See,
tell me really why you're here.
I'd be fired day one because I'd be like, Ari, you are such a bitch. I'll see you out in the courtyard, and then I would say, Julia, you're so obnoxious, and then I would say, Natalie, you're next. I mean,
Natalie's got
fired so fast.
Natalie's been had it coming.
So does Ari.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of people are really gonna see her for who she is. I used to have people that would argue with me that she was a victim and she was actually a good person. So I think after this season, I think everybody we're gonna catch up and we're gonna be on the same page because she's holding this man's social media hostage. So argue with me now that she's a good person. I would love for you to try. I would really, really love that. You can't. That's because you know what? If she's holding social media hostage when they do get divorced, you know what else she's gonna hold hostage? Avi.
Yep.
Because
she's already doing that.
Right, Avi. So
I took my kid and moved to Ethiopia. Not our kid. I took my kid and I moved to Ethiopia. That's the first thing she said.
That's true. That's very true. And I hate that for him though, because you're right. This is the second child he's been refused to see. So she knows that this is gonna be a huge blow, and that was her motivation. That was her motivation. She's just that type of person. All right, so I'm going, after this is done, we're gonna end now. I'm gonna go watch Between the Sheets, and then we'll report back, and I'll tell y'all if it's any good. Shabuti's not watching it, so he told me I had to watch it and report back too. So if it's good,
I'm gonna try to stay awake through it.
Well, I'm gonna put it on because I gotta edit the podcast and post. I'm gonna put it on so it's playing. If it's any good, because you know what they're doing. It's like Sophie and Julia will watch together, and then Rob and Josh. So they take the same sex of the different couples and put them together, and then they watch together. So if it's any good, I would love to see Josh and Rob together, because the text back and forth, Natalie stuff. So I want to see how they react to that. So if it's any good, I'll let y'all know. And it's a lot, though. It's a 3-hour commitment, so it's asking a lot from people. So if it's good, I'll try, but I might not be able to watch it the same night. I do have other things going on.
I'm just wondering if this 2-hour episode was for the first episode, and then it's going to be an hour from here on out. Like, they used the first hour to introduce the shit show.
They did that for the other way. Yeah. It was 2 hours the first episode, then an hour. That's actually, then that would be much easier for me to get through. An hour and then the between the sheets, and then I would be okay. I can do 2 hours. Yeah. 3 hours is asking a lot from me.
And
like, it's asking.
I could do it if they weren't, stupid and had to cancel Discovery and Max, and since they make you watch this shit live, it's
right. It's like it's 1992 all over again. We got to race home to get in front of the TV to watch the show, and then it didn't show up on TLC Go until 8:04 or 5 or 6 today. Yep. So it was late. It was a whole thing. All right, guys, we're gonna end tonight. That was episode 1, season 2, The Last Resort. I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, Cara. You have to follow her. I'm going to tag her in this video. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at George Mossey, georgemossey.com. Anywhere you get your podcasts and stream music, type in The George Mossey Show. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see y'all all really soon. Bye.
Bye.